The 3 crew members will arrive at the launch pad in a bus. They will be wearing Sokol spacesuits. These protect the crew during the launch and other important parts of the mission. In their left hand, they are each holding a portable cooling unit. This will be used up until the moment they enter the Soyuz spacecraft. One last picture is usually taken here on these steps. An elevator then takes them up to the top where they can get into the Soyuz spacecraft. There is a hatch in the side of the launch shroud. This leads to the orbital module, and then down into the descent module, of course being very careful not to damage anything. They are in their seats about 2 hours before the launch. In the center seat is the commander. This will always be a Russian cosmonaut. The other 2 seats are for the flight engineers. These may also be Russian cosmonauts or an astronaut from another country. The instrument panel is up here. Not all of the controls can be reached by hand. The commander in the center seat will have a stick to be able to reach all of them. The crew will hang a 0G indicator that's usually a stuffed animal or a toy. This is a nice visual reminder once they are in space and the effects of gravity are gone. Everything done inside of the Soyuz spacecraft is in Russian, which means all crew members must speak the language fluently. During the 2 hours before launch, there are many checks that need to happen to make sure that the rocket and spacecraft are ready for the launch. For some of that time, they will play music inside of the spacecraft to help relax the crew. 30 minutes before the launch, the service structure arms will be rotated away from the rocket. 15 minutes before the launch, all personnel are evacuated from the launch pad. At 35 seconds before the launch, the first umbilical tower is released. Then at 15 seconds, the second umbilical tower is released. At the moment of liftoff, the 4 support trusses rotate away and the Soyuz begins to rise. The Soyuz launch is automated, but the crew must be ready in case anything goes wrong. About 20 seconds after liftoff, it'll start pitching over to the side. At 2 minutes after liftoff, the launch escape tower will be jettisoned because it's no longer needed. The 4 side boosters now have empty fuel tanks, which means the first rocket stage is now complete. When the side boosters fall down, this is considered the Korolev cross. You can usually still see this from the ground. The central block of the rocket continues to fire on its own. As they continue to accelerate, the crew will feel as much as 3.5 Gs, or 3.5 times as heavy as they do on Earth. The launch shroud protected the spacecraft through the atmosphere, but were high enough up that it's no longer needed. At 2.5 minutes, it falls away, exposing the Soyuz spacecraft. This is the first time that the crew will be able to see outside their windows into space. At 5 minutes, the second stage is almost done. Before it finishes, the third stage starts firing while the second stage is still attached. This is so that the rocket is always accelerating, which will press the fuel to the back of the tank where it's needed. Then the second stage is jettisoned. The orange panels protecting the engines also fall away. Just before 9 minutes, the third stage cuts off. This is called main engine cutoff, or MECO. Shortly after, it separates from the spacecraft. The Soyuz spacecraft is now on its own. Inside the Soyuz, the 0G indicator will begin to float, and the crew members will feel weightless for the first time. Now the antennas deploy, and also the solar panels. This generates power for the Soyuz spacecraft. They are at a height of about 240 kilometers and traveling at a speed of 27,000 kilometers per hour.